guys, and welcome back to another video tutorial here at ReichelProductions. And of course we're continuing with the tutorial series Volumetric Light from a Window, and this will be part 5 of the series. So let's get to it. What we're going to be doing is continuing with the window and creating the outdoor scene that is viewed from inside. And to do that we're going to create an image. I'm going to just duplicate the box here, because as you remember we had an aperture, but what I want is just that bottom part there. So I'm just going to Shift D, grab it just to make sure it's been duplicated, and press Escape. I'm then going to press M to move it to another layer, and I'm going to now select that layer. The reason why we're not seeing it here in the viewport is because, remember, we had selected ray visibility to be invisible to the camera, so we had deselected that. Just go into face mode and we press A to make sure, twice to make sure everything's deselected. Box select, and I'm going to press delete faces. Right, so we're left with that plane there, a duplicate of the plane with the size of that aperture there and everything. Right, now I'm just going to press Tab to go into object mode, press Control Shift Alt and C, and origin to geometry. Great. Now while we're about it, I'll just go into here and I'm going to delete this material, because there's not going to be that material anymore. I'm going to create a new material, and we'll come back to that. And also what I'm going to do before I forget is tick that so we can see. Now let's go into UV editing. You'll see I have a photograph which I took some time ago, not a very good photograph, and perhaps a little blurry, but that's perfect for what we want. So if you normally need to select an image, you would obviously go here and select Open Image and select that from your file. But this is the image I'm going to be using. Let's go into wire mode, and we're going to press Tab, and we're going to select vertices, box select, pressing B, and then I'm going to say fill by pressing F, and press A twice, and unwrap by pressing U, and just the normal unwrap should be fine. I'm just going to scale that down. I'm going to, by pressing S, press G as well, grab that, put that over there. Actually, let's just bring it about there, that should be fine. Box select, B again, and now I'm going to press Y, and if I grab that, it is now separate. Press Z to undo that. A, and that section is still in the correct place, so let's go back, put it into the materials, and we go to image texture. Alright, and we select the one that we want, which is that one there. Okay, now you'll see that the image is the wrong way around, RZ90. Okay, what I want to do at first, so that you can see what's going on, I'm going to add a node, the color node, and we're going to give this some more brightness so that we can see. And generally you need to put quite a bit of brightness there, 20, and the contrast is usually about double, so 20 and then 40. That works pretty well. If you're doing something like 1 and 2, you get this kind of thing. So yeah, 20 or 40 works pretty well. In this case, for this photograph, you'll need to fiddle around with that. But as I said, the contrast is usually twice the brightness. So now that we've done that, I'm just going to zoom in here so we get a closer look. You can see the image is fine. Now if I right click that face and then I select, or I press N on the keyboard, I bring up my transform properties, and I can then enter an amount along the y-axis to shift this along that axis. So let's enter an amount of 30 centimeters, and that'll move it off to the left. Okay, so there's our face there with its UV mapping all in place, and we now have an aperture. Okay, so to close that aperture, I just need to press enter 0, and that's all closed up, and the seams and everything, there's no seams in that image, everything is fine. So we can then manipulate this image, and you'll see how that works now. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is just go into the setup here, go into side view, and I'm going to bring up all the layers except for the camera. That's fine, so we can just see what the story is here. Right, so there's that image created from the base of that box, and I'm just going to bring it down so we can see it there. And in fact, let me just label it. We'll call this outdoor image. That should be fine. And this, remember, is our volumetric plane, or glow plane, whatever you want to call it. I'll just deselect that for now. Now, to get the light projected onto the ground with the shadows, we just need to open this aperture as I did earlier. So let's just do that again so you can see how that works. Enter 30 centimeters, and off it goes there. And we just need to increase the size of that aperture, because it's now creating a smaller aperture. Even though the aperture above is correct, it will now narrow that projected light, so we need to match it up to the other aperture. Now, because we've brought it down, we can just do it by watching over here, and just scaling everything up. And because this has now been separated by using the Y separate method, when we scale this up, it will be proportionately scaled up too, and so we don't have any problems with that. And we can just scale it up by looking here to fit into the size of the ray there. And obviously now, if we were to do a view of this window, we would now have an aperture there. Okay, so this view would be different, where we would need to close that aperture. So we would just close that. So what this does is it allows you to have a camera fly through with a whole system where you would open the aperture so that you could see your shadows and your light projected, and then as you coming up to the window, you would then close it here. Alright, so this allows you to do the whole thing without any compositing. Okay, which is what I said right in the beginning. I didn't want to do any compositing in this tutorial, and this is a way to do it. Okay, now let's have a look at the image and see how it looks. There's a number of settings that you'll need to do to get this looking a little better, and the first one is your render settings here. What I've done is I've clamped the direct light to 0.6, and the indirect, you could do it at about 0.9 or 1. That usually works. Let me just put my number there. Okay, because if you put these at 0, in other words no clamping, you're going to get too much light coming through your window, and you won't actually see your image, as you can see here. Okay, it just becomes very bright. Okay, and then you can tweak the settings as well with your contrast of your image itself. Remember, we had it at 20 to 40, so let's just see if we increase this a little bit, 30 to 60. Remember, 1 is to 2 usually is the best ratio in this for this photograph. Okay, so you can see that, you know, it makes it a little bit brighter, but there's another setting as well which is going to affect the brightness, and that is the actual index of refraction here for your window. At the moment I've got it at 0, so it has no refractive index. If I put that at 1, you can see what happens now. Usually glass is about 1.3, somewhere around there. So now we can tweak it with the settings again on the image, and we can bring it down, say back to where it was maybe. Let's have a look. That should be fine. Maybe let's just put it at about 15 and 30 then. Alright, so you know, you'll just have to fiddle with that, see what's the best setting for you. Now you'll notice as well that your window, the reflections on the window aren't actually that visible, and that's basically what tells you that there is a pane of glass there. Okay, so let's go back and fiddle a little bit with that. If I increase the glossiness to maybe about somewhere just around 0.5, okay, then I'm going to get more reflections on that glass there. I can just increase a little bit more. But the great thing about the volumetric shader node is that you can make use of that to improve the way things are looking here, and that's what I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to bring up the layer with that volumetric glow plane, and as I bring it closer towards the window, it is now in between the image, remember, and the pane of glass. It creates a nice sort of brightness as though the light is coming through from the outside, and increases the brightness around the inside of that frame there, and also it enhances the reflections. Okay, so I can increase the strength of that as well and decrease it depending on the requirements that I have, but in general it allows you to have more control of various aspects of your render here. The other thing that you're probably wondering is, what about this light here? Well, that has no effect on anything, which works perfectly. So if I happen to put this at something crazy like 10,000, it's not going to affect this at all. What it will affect, of course, is down below here once your aperture is open there. Okay, so we've adjusted the brightness there, so the light coming through is only what is going to be affected, and then of course we can adjust the light beam to correspond to the extra brightness if we want to. So we have the individual you know, settings, something crazy like 2 or whatever. Let's put it 1, you know. So that basically concludes part 5. Part 6, we'll do some more settings, and we'll add the plant in the view to the window, and I'm going to show you some other things that need to be discussed here for some more individual settings. So until next time, thanks guys, and I hope you're enjoying and following along and trying out these various aspects of volumetric shading.